Welcome today in the podcast episode with Jenny Radcliffe. And I've been watching a couple of episodes where she was another guest also in different podcasts in a video. And she has an interesting world. And also the way that she came into this world was very interesting. So we want to touch a little bit on the topic as well. Welcome, Jenny.
Thanks. Pleased to be here.
Yeah, I love it. You are calling yourself, or people are calling you, the human hacker?
People hacker, yeah. People hacker. That's right.
And it kind of sounds weird, people hacker.
Sounds like a murderer, right? Yeah. It sounds like I murder people. No, people hacker is a name that kind of describes what I do. So when we hear the word hacker, we very often think of a guy, usually a guy in a hoodie, a black hoodie with a computer kind of, entering malicious code and hacking us all on the internet and in the cloud. And that's not what I do. So I use psychology and physical infiltration techniques. So that means I'm two things. I kind of psychologically use persuasion, manipulation and influence techniques to persuade people in businesses to tell me things they shouldn't tell me as an outsider, okay? So we pretend to be the bad guys and see what information we can find online or through talking to people. If they give me a password or some detail about the company, that helps us breach their security. And then on the physical side, we put a team together and we physically break into the building like burglars, kind of like Ocean's 11, but not as good looking, okay? And we try and get in and find a target, and maybe we get into the CEO's office or the finance guy's laptop. And what we're doing is we're showing, the art of the possible. What could happen if criminals or people with malicious intentions took what we do and applied those techniques to a business? And then we educate people, okay? So we say, this is how we do it. This is what you need to do to protect yourself, to stop it happening for real. And so it's a people hacker because even though these are hacks, we get around something, I use the people to do it. But I don't murder anyone, at least only on Tuesdays.
But it is, because psychology is a very interesting topic. And you say, so we use psychology to influence people to do things that they normally wouldn't do, but you persuade them to do things.
Yes.
And then you tell them what they can do to prevent it. But psychology is our brain is a weird thing. We have all these biases that we use to make fast decisions. Otherwise we would just all day working on decisions that we don't want to do. Mm-hmm. So even if you tell them to do this to prevent that, there will be other things that you could do to still use psychology to get in, right?
Right. I mean, of course, and we're all human. And if we catch someone at the right time with the right script, everyone's going to fall. I'm going to fall for it, even doing the job. I might be a more difficult target. But the way it works is that most times when we're approached by people who are scammers or con artists, through a phishing email. So people think they might know phishing emails, right? So you get a phishing email and people think, I know that this is fake, okay? Because I don't know any princes who are going to give me, 40 million euros as long as I give them my bank account and password, right? So we think that we spot these things. But actually, a lot of the emails that we get, and it's not just emails, it can be on the phone, it can be on social media, even in person when we're not in the COVID time. A lot of these approaches are not that easy to spot. And it's because we can research people online, we can look at their information, the people that you hang out with, your family, your hobbies, your workplaces. And those emails that come to you, those approaches that happen, take all of that into account and are very specific to the person, okay? So for me, it might be something about the city I live in, or a hobby, or somewhere I've traveled, or a meal I've enjoyed and reviewed on, you know, an app like TripAdvisor, or one of those. And what happens is then when that email comes and speaks to me, I really recognize those details. So I'm far more likely to respond. So what we've got emotional content, something that maybe frightens me or gives me a free gift, or makes me worry, you know? So like something like ransomware, where we get approached over email by someone who says, we've got your password, we can access your computer, we're going to hold your data, your documents, your photographs, and until you pay us some money, we're not releasing it. All of those things rely on emotion. And it's whether we're frightened, whether we're happy, whether we're ashamed of something. But whatever it is, that human psychology, that part of our brain that gets emotional, stops being logical. And at that point, we just want a way out, and we're looking to click on a link or pay something and get everything back to normal, okay? Now, of course, you're right. Of course, that we can teach you to look out for this one or this one, and we might be protected there. But because we're human, we're complicated, and we could get another approach in a week or two's time, and that one could get through. But there are generic recommendations that we say to people that keep them safe pretty much constantly, as much as we ever can. And the first thing is, we say, if you get something that's got emotional content in it, if it asks you to do something quickly, if it talks about money, all of those things, you need to take a breath, sit back and not do anything. Don't click on the link. Don't open the attachment. Don't reply. Okay? Because even though there's a million ways of catching people out, and some of them are going to get through, if we remember that if I feel emotional in some way, they're talking about money and they're asking me to do something, especially if it's quickly, then put those things together, and we have to step back and say, this might be a criminal, this might be a scam. And if you can think about those things, then that's my job. That's the work that we do, is just keeping that everyone at the front of everyone's mind, so that we're difficult targets. We'll always be a target. Sometimes they get through, but you can make yourself a difficult target. And that's really what we're talking about.
Right. I've been watching a lot of talks, and actually I followed the course by Rory Sutherland. Mm-hmm. He's the CEO of Ogilvy in the UK. And he also wrote a book about this. And it's all about psychology, marketing. And he says the same thing. You know, I use these ideas, tricks between quotes, in my marketing with clients. But at the same time, I am tricked by these messages when I'm doing this, right? So when I go visit a website to book a holiday, I see there's only 2 places left, or I'm the last one. I'm influenced by it, even if I don't want to. I know how this trick works. I'm influenced by it, and yes. I think that's the whole tricky part of this. Is, of course, like you said, it's the human brain, and it is weird or difficult, and it does things at moments when we don't want it to do the things that that
it does, and we can't rely on things like memory. Our memory isn't great, and we don't detect deception very well. You know, there's a lot of things that humans are very vulnerable to, but with a little bit of education and a little bit of knowledge, you make yourself less vulnerable. And that's really what security is about. We know that everything is hackable. Okay, we can get to everyone can be got to. We all care about something. We all want to protect something. We all want to avoid certain things. So, these are just characteristics of being a human. And if we were completely suspicious of everything all of the time, we couldn't really function in society. So it's just really about making people a little bit more aware, so that we're caught out less often, less damaging, and we're harder to catch out, really. And I mean, that example that you've just given about, there's only 1 or 2 places left, it's tapping into Robert Cialdini's work. A guy called Robert Cialdini wrote a book called Influence, and it's all about scarcity. And, you know, we all feel like that. You know, if you think there's only 1 or 2 left, oh my goodness, you know, I'm gonna buy it straight away. But that's linked to psychology as well. It's linked to our deep need to survive. And we don't like it when things run out. If you think about the COVID-19, the first lockdown in the UK and elsewhere, and everyone bought toilet paper, right? And pasta, even though there wasn't a shortage, we created one. Why? Because we don't like it when our options are limited. And we tend to react as if there's a panic, because then we feel more secure. So all of those things are used by criminals, by malicious social engineers to catch people out. And just knowing about them helps us be a little bit more safe, you know? It's not bulletproof, but it helps us be a bit safer.
At the same time, you do this, of course, companies hire you that have a higher risk of being attacked. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't say any company would hire. There's companies that have more risk, they will hire you. So you would expect that the people that work there are less vulnerable to these kind of attacks.
Yeah, I mean, they sometimes are. I mean, I'm hired by all sorts of different companies. I do less of that work. And obviously now we do a lot less of it, where we have to go to the building and talk my way in or climb on the roof or something. Obviously that's a little bit more tricky during COVID, but no, I mean, I do a few of them a year. I do some very high security venues and some, you know, lower security venues, which are very, very fun. You know, it's a fun job when it comes to that, because no one's going to get hurt. We make sure nobody gets fired if they make a mistake. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a professional con artist. They've been conned by a professional. You know, the point is it's a learning moment, and that's really what we look to do. So I do all different types of buildings, and it varies. You know, some people are very suspicious and they're difficult to fool, and other people, even with the training, even with training, you can catch someone at the wrong time. You can catch someone when they're busy or distracted, or when what you choose to tell them to get you into the building just makes sense to them for some reason. You know, I remember going into a building one time and and this is so funny here now, because I'm rubbish with technology and particularly would be terrible at this, but I was stressed. I said, I'm here to fix the coffee machine. You know, your vending machines are so terrible, they're always breaking. And of course, every vending machine breaks all the time. I can't remember the statistic, but there's a couple of 100 people a year are killed by vending machines because they shake them when they can't get their chocolate and they fall on them and kill them. I mean, so I just I didn't know for sure, but I was kind of banking on the fact that their vending machines were probably problematic. And, you know, and I said, I'm here for that. And I had a little shirt on with a little coffee cup. And, you know, I'm here to fix the machine and a toolbox. And I look very innocent. I mean, look at me. I look like butter wouldn't melt in my mouth. I look like an angel. I certainly don't look like a criminal. And the lady said, oh, yes, we're expecting you. You know, we're expecting you. And I thought, oh, no, because like I'm going to get there. So they were expecting someone to fix their machines that day. And I thought, if I get there and start pretending to fix this machine, you know, the real coffee machine guy or gal is going to turn up and I'm going to get caught, you know. So, but the reason that works so well, it might have worked anyway, but on that day there was a problem. So, you know, it's of course we can catch people out all the time, but generally speaking, once you do that job and you train people, they are more aware for a little bit of time. The key is to keep doing it. And we can't just do it once or twice a year and tick a box. You can't just have people watch a video, you know, one time a year or once a month and click through a course online. It has to be like a constant conversation, really, to really keep it in people's minds. And that's the trick. Right.
I have a couple of questions from what you're telling now, but I think the one that interests me more is, how did you get into this? Did you watch a lot of con artists, or how do you do this? How do you teach? How do you learn for this?
So, you know, sometimes I as I say, I do a lot of public speaking, right? And I always have to say something about how I started in the job, because if I don't, that's all people want to know. It's like, how did you seem normal. How did you end up doing that? And also, can I do it? I want to do it. Do you train people, right? There's the two things. People just want to be a burglar. They want to be a cat burglar. Well, so I for me, I was a little kid and I grew up in Liverpool, which is my home city. I adore Liverpool, but at the time we'd had a lot of problems with the governments and things not funding the city. And so we had some unemployment and stuff, and it was quite a rough place. And I just hung out with some of the short answer is I hung out with some of my family. So I had cousins who were older boys, who were a little bit naughty, and they used to like to get into buildings in and around the city that were empty mostly, just to see if they could get in. And, you know, like kids do that, don't they? There's a empty house, or, you know, and then you go in at night. So you go in first to see if it's empty, then at night, and there was tunnels and there was all kinds of places. And we just used to explore that kind of, they call it urban exploration, the urban environment. And then as we got older, they started to work in the bars and things in Liverpool. Liverpool is a fabulous party city, and there's lots of pubs and bars and nightclubs, and they were security. And they spoke to some of the clients and said, look, we can do this. We can look at your house and we can test whether or not someone can break in. I mean, we can show you how we break in. And so we started to do that. And the boys went and did other things, but I was good at reports and things, and I don't look threatening. So I ended up getting a lot of those jobs for people with a lot of money, for me to check their house out, because I could talk to their wife and I could, you know, I just wasn't a scary person. Whereas someone who knows how to break into buildings, it must feel quite frightening, I think. And I did it for years. And then before too long, we were doing businesses. And literally it just was word of mouth. I mean, I never had websites or anything like that at the time. And it was, and then the word sort of got around. I did it as well as a normal career for many years. I had a normal career. I was a negotiator for Fortune 500 companies. I worked in procurement. And I go to, you know, business meetings. I mean, all over Europe, all over Asia, America. And very often, whilst I was there doing one thing, I'd get a job in. I'd let my clients know. I'd let people would know that I was somewhere else. And I'd say, you know, if you need this, and I do this security job for them and lots of other things. I make some money on the side of my salary. And and that's how I ended up doing it. And because I wasn't very good technically, and because my real job was negotiation, I learned a lot of sort of skills that helped out. So I learned body language and lie detection and psychology and interview skills and communication skills and you know, all those types of things, as well as sort of skills for being a burglar, really. And then, I mean, by the time, you know, sort of the 2000s came around, it was the type of job that people actually spoke about and did in the security industry. And what really surprised me was that the cybersecurity industry, the technical people, the computer people, were the set of people that understood more than anyone else how important it was not to ignore the humans, you know. And so, I mean, I started to get hired there, and I started to get to be asked to talk about it and train people. And there still isn't really a very good training program for social engineering. You can go on 1 or 2 day courses, but how you learn it is really quite a difficult thing. And I mean, I've gone as far as drafting a curriculum out, and it's sort of a 2-year course, really. So it's hard to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine, like you said before, the repetition is a key aspect in this. So that's not, I think it's like language, right? So if you learn a language, it's great, but you need to visit the country or speak the language often if you want to keep it up. I think this is kind of a similar thing.
That's why I still do the 6 or 7 a year, because really, I'm expensive now to do it because I'm old and I'm fat. And I never used to be this fat. I used to be quite fit and everything. I'm not fit anymore, especially after a year sitting at this desk. And it's dangerous, and it involves climbing and running, and I can't be bothered, but I do it because I have to keep doing the job a little bit to really understand the way it works. You can't stop doing that job just because it's difficult. So I still do a few a year, but I'm a bit slower running away. And also it's a bit trickier because as I've got older and everything, and you sort of become more confident, I think I stand out a little bit. And sometimes security people have even know me because I have the podcast and everything. And, I always think, a Scouse, this Liverpool accent, this Scouse accent. And it's harder to kind of blend in when you're a bit older, I think, sometimes. Because I'm just confident. Sure. I'm not used to blending in.
Yeah, no, I think it's more the confident, and of course that people know you by now, but all these podcast episodes you did.
I mean, they don't know me. I mean, a few people in the security industry perhaps would know me. But the trouble is they're the people who'd be looking for me,
Right. So you've been, like I said, it was in the beginning, it was on the side, and you've been like a supply chain sourcing, and you've studied Chinese.
Well, Chinese law.
Right.
So because I was, like I say, I was working in procurement for some big organizations, and supply chain and procurement manager, and then sort of country regional leader. So kind of like a director, sort of one beneath a director. And most of the negotiations that we needed to do were in Asia. So I had a lot of experience in China with Chinese kind of business culture. And the reason they sent me in the first place was when I was quite junior, was because if I got it wrong, they would have just fired me. Didn't care. They didn't care. But I was always very good with people. I always like people, and I'm friendly, and I can kind of get people. I can build rapport quite quickly, I suppose. Although I would never have seen it that way. But I'm interested in their story, and so I did a lot of negotiations in China. And when you do negotiations, it's good. It's very helpful to us because I still teach negotiation, right, to a couple of people. But it's very useful to understand the culture, not just of the company, but the meta culture, so the way that the country works. And particularly in China, it was very important because at that time, sort of again, so late 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't even really a big emphasis on contracts, say. So, you have to understand why this culture didn't put much faith in a written document. What's the idea behind that, and why, and how does it work? So it was all about persuading people to do those things. And then I'd left sort of corporate life in terms of being an employee, and I became a consultant. And I was writing degree level courses for procurement, and so everything you can imagine. Specifications, marketing for procurement, internal communications, loads of negotiation courses. And I was asked, could I write a course about negotiating in India and in China, specifically because right back, if you remember the early 2000s, everyone was trying to do deals out in Asia, but they were struggling because there was this huge cultural problem. So I wrote, and I was very interested in law anyway. I had lots of sort of law courses I taught on, even though I never studied it at university. So I wrote a course, Chinese contract negotiations. And the organisation I worked for at the time, the training company I worked for, could sell it because nobody really I'd had the experience in China and as a negotiator. So so it's not that I certainly don't speak Chinese. I mean, I know to say a few things, but I've probably forgot most of that now. But yeah, so I don't speak it, but I knew the legal framework, if that's what you want to call it, that they worked with, and the culture that they worked with. And we're going back 20 years now. It mattered. It wasn't the place it is now. I mean, Shanghai, for example, I was in Shanghai a lot, was not as now it's like New York. But back then it was, you know, even Shanghai wasn't that modern compared to what it is now. So you needed people who could go out there, could talk to people, could read. And also, I couldn't speak their language at all. So, you know what English people are like? We're not great at learning foreign languages. So I thought, I'm going to learn body language. I'm going to learn non-verbal communication. And then I can read what they think, which is not really how it works to mostly. But in my head, that was what I thought. I thought, if I can't learn the language, I can learn at least this. And I did, and I threw myself, I spent a lot of time, money and effort learning body language and non-verbal communication. And when you learn that, you nearly always learn lie detection at the same time, because the people who lead the field in non-verbal communications, I mean, it takes too long to explain, but they're linked. And of course that helped when I got into security, because I could detect deception as much as anyone could.
What is it that you think is the most important difference between what you use here and in China on this kind of topics like deception or breaking in or using psychology?
Well, I mean, you know, humans are fundamentally animals, right? And so a lot of the time when you're looking at things like lie detection or body language or deception or you know, any of those things, we're really looking at the actual animal underneath, our physiology, right? So how does the body react to stress? How does the face react to emotion? And that's a universal measure. And that's why I learned it, because it's universal. It's common to humans, which is kind of wonderful. It's not common to culture. The biggest difference between, I guess, Western culture and a lot of the culture that I saw in Asia is long-term versus short-term planning. So strategy. So in the West, we tend, and particularly in the UK and America, particularly in those two countries, and I was waiting for American firms, we tend to plan a year or two ahead. You know, you're lucky if it's a 4-year plan, and certainly at the time. But China and Chinese companies, and certainly companies I spoke to in Cambodia and in Vietnam and all over, and you know, Taiwan, lovely people in Taiwan, one of my favorite places. In Taiwan and Thailand, they plan for decades in advance. The whole country does. They have a vision and they all know the vision, but the companies plan in advance. And that's a tricky thing to get agreement on, because we're thinking 2 years from now, then we're all going to go and do another job and do something else. But a lot of the people I spoke to are thinking a decade in advance. So you're playing, it's sort of like playing chess. You have to think, well, what does that person, what's their next move? And how can I anticipate that and work well with them? The whole point of being a good negotiator, actually, is to try and get to a situation where everybody's happy, right? So you're not there to kind of beat someone up and get everything you want. What you really want to do is be clever and get everybody a solution that they're happy with, because then you can go forward and get the most value out of a commercial contract. Now that's different if it's a criminal negotiation or a crisis, because we don't want the other person to get what they want, because what they want might be to kill someone or to blow something up. But in commercial contracts, usually, if we think in a collaborative way and we think clearly, we can usually get everybody a solution that they're happy with. And that's really what I was good at, I think, was doing that.
Did their culture on long-term thinking change your thinking in these kind of horizons?
No, I don't think so. I think I am what I am. I don't think I think as long term.
Right.
I think I'm just Western. I'm just English, and it's in my head that you know, I do think shorter term than my Chinese and Asian counterparts. I can plan it that way for a negotiation, and you know, we can adapt it a little bit. But I think for personally, because of the job as well, you know, it's a risky job I did for a long time. I still do occasionally do those, like I say, that 6 or 7 times a year, once every couple of months. I think that's a risky, a very big risk appetite, and that doesn't lend itself to long-term thinking particularly.
you mentioned before, one of the tips is, like you mentioned, look at these signals. Is it, quick? Is it emotional? Is it money? Right? Just take a step back and review it and then react, maybe. What are one or two other tips that you really think is important you want to learn?
Do you know, most people get caught out by hackers by the basics. Like, they reuse passwords. Don't reuse passwords. Don't click on things that come in on your phone or on an email. Don't click, like people don't see their phone as a computer, but your phone is a computer. If you get a text message with a link in it, don't click on that. Don't reuse passwords. But my biggest one that I talk about, I guess, in conferences and talks is really, be careful what information you share online. Ask yourself before you use social media and put pictures of everything, what could a person who meant me harm do with this information? And then be careful about what you share. And, I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying make a decision about who can see your posts and what you're sharing about yourself. Because what we do is we take lots of bits of information, build up a picture, like a jigsaw puzzle, and then use that to profile you and get to you. So be careful what you put online. So, I mean, they're really the three biggest things that anyone can do, aside from that advice I gave on the emails. Don't reuse your passwords. Don't share too much, about yourself online, and don't click on links in emails or texts.
And because the second point, right, is be careful what information you share online. The most important point. But like yourself, you are a known person in this industry. You have a podcast, you have a website, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Twitter, you share.
I'm on everywhere.
Yeah, I, that's the two channels that I follow, so I don't know the other ones.
I'm everywhere. Pinterest, you can find me on Pinterest, probably find me on everything. Instagram, yeah.
So, and you want to be visible because you want people to hire you for your jobs, you want people to hire you to speak, to train. So you want to be visible as an entrepreneur. You want to reach out to people, to a lot of people with your podcast, with your episode, with your the things that you write. How do you balance this, that at the same point you're careful with what you're sharing?
Because the personal information isn't available. So you might look at me and think, I probably did maybe 25 interviews last year, podcasts and interviews for magazines and like you say, I'm all over LinkedIn and everything else. But to really find information about like my family or it's all very carefully orchestrated. So you wouldn't necessarily find out much information that was personal about the people around me. That's harder to find. It's not impossible, but it's harder to find. So you're seeing a professional profile, and you're hearing a professional profile. What I choose to put out there, I'm very careful about what goes out there. And it's a choice, because like you say, I've got to do it. I'm a small business. I want people to find me and work with me and everything else. So I've got to be visible, but I don't have to tell them everything. It's like poker. I don't just put all the cards on the table. So people think they know, and it's true of a lot of people. People think they know you. They don't necessarily. They know part of you. And for me, it's very carefully controlled.
I was thinking last Sunday, the Sunday before, my wife fell we had a lot of snow here. It was slippery and she fell. And she broke her elbow.
Oh, ow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's bad. So, I'm sorry.
No, that was not the point. The point was, at some point, I shared this on Twitter. I say, okay, my wife, but I call her always M, so I don't use her real name. But I shared that, okay, so at one moment, you're just walking along, going to the shop, and the next moment, you're in the first help of the hospital. So was this something that you would have been sharing, or was this something that you would be withholding, for example?
Well, in that particular, I mean, sometimes I put it out there. I think anything that the thing is, I suppose we make decisions post to post, day to day. But the problem is that you potentially open yourself up for lots of emails about that now. So if I was targeting you, I could send an email and say, you know, it wouldn't be difficult for me to find out based on your other information, which hospital that might have been, you know, and then you've got everything from, oh, you didn't fill a form out in the hospital, to we think you left something behind the hospital, we took your photograph when you were in the hospital, we were filming a documentary, you might not have seen us, but is it okay to use it? If it is, click on the link, and then of course you click on the link, and so they get very inventive about how they use things, and so, you know, what do? You've got to live your life. You've got friends and family and people who follow you who are probably interested in that. So it's just making a decision day to day and being alert to it, really. Would I have put it out there? I might have done. I mean, I didn't. I got very ill. I had an emergency ambulance to the hospital last year at the COVID. And I mean, only my friends know about that until now. I'm not telling you why. But I had I was in hospital and I had photographs of myself in hospital and all the, you know, all the blood and everything, you know, blood transfusions and everything. And, you know, I have photographs of them on all my tattoos, because the lady said, you know, she said, it's funny when people have tattoos, so I have quite big tattoos, and they hate getting a needle. Now, I don't care about needles, but she said that, and I thought that was quite funny. So I had a photograph of all the things going into my arm next to the tattoo, and they used the tattoo as the anchor point. Now, my friends saw that, but my professional followers on Twitter and LinkedIn didn't see that, and probably wouldn't even know. This would be the first most people have heard that happened to me last year, but it did. So, you know, it's what you give away. And I can tell you now, because it's a year ago, right, and it's over, and it doesn't matter. But I didn't put that out. But someone else might not think that's a problem.
And I think the one thing that I'm learning slowly is that this kind of information, even if you don't want it to, can be used against you, or not maybe even against you, can be used for you to trick you into things, right? So, and that's why I'm asking these questions, to learn, to see what do I need to change in my habits, because I've always been very open. Like I always said, if you've got nothing to hide, you can share it, because then no one can use it against you. But that's not true, right?
No, it's not true. No, it's not true, and it's an unfortunate fact that there are bad people in the world, and they will use anything they can, either to get to you or to get to people in your network or to get to your companies that you work with them for, and they don't care if that hurts your feelings or gets your family or takes your identity or steals money. They don't care about that. You're collateral damage on the way to a higher goal. And you know, people they always think they're not important enough or not rich enough to be hacked, but you are, because you're a link in the chain. And that's a very sad thing, but it's just true. And we have to make ourselves a difficult target. Unfortunately, no one ever smiles at me at this point when I'm telling these stories, and I'm stood up in front of thousands of people, hundreds of people at some conference or whatever, and I say this. I always look out and go, no one's happy, because everyone's like, damn, I was happy until you said that. But now, as soon as I say it, now you can completely see that it's true, and now you can't unsee it. Now you can't not hear me say that now. So now you go, damn it, I can't put everything online.
And you're right, because the thing is that it's like you know it, but you want to just ignore it because you don't want to believe it, that this is the way it is, right? That's the world should be prettier than this, right? So that's the feeling that you have. So I think that's why it's so frustrating.
Balance. Find the balance, right? Yeah. So just know that it's out there, and then make a decision. I'm not going to stop using these things, but I'm just aware. So, like, for example, with the example with your wife and a broken elbow, if you put that out there, you'd have to be very, very careful and just aware of anything that came to you from your phone or whatever that was about that, and again, do they mention money? Do they want you to click on something, take some action? Are they rushing you? Is it emotional? Well, it's emotional anyway because she's been injured, right? So that's a perfect situation. So all of those things, and it's the same thing no matter what it is, no matter how they approach, what the circumstances, just look out for those things, because those are the things that we need to assess carefully in a logical way. And yet when they come to us and we read them or we hear them, it's designed to stop you being logical, and your logical will take over if you give it time to do.
Right. Okay. I got one more question. The newest social media app, like you said, I'm on everything, is of course now, what's it called? The sound thing.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, correct.
Yes.
And of course, it's a new app. They are experimenting with a lot of things. For example, they are inviting your whole address book to get into Clubhouse. Is it an app that you're using now, and is this maybe stopping you as well?
So I was invited on it quite early, and I'm not really using it so much. I mean, it seems like fun. I'm kind of reserving my judgment a bit on it. I certainly wouldn't. I don't invite my address book, and I would never do anything like that. I would invite people one by one if I thought they found it useful. I try not to spam everyone with me, which is hard sometimes when people ask you to be interviewed. I mean, I always say yes, more or less, if people ask for podcast interviews and things, because people have come on my show. So, I always say yes. But I think you just have to treat everything with some suspicion and with caution, until we know it's safe or until we know the problems. If you look at apps like WhatsApp, I gave a talk a few weeks ago to a group of people virtually. And I said, I can hack WhatsApp. I can see your chats. And I'm not a technical hacker. I mean, I've got people I work with who are amazing technically, can do anything. But I can hack your WhatsApp chats, and they're all looking at each other, and I said, I'll show you. And they had a work chat, and we got into it and showed them just a couple of lines that weren't important. But of course, everyone's horrified. And you say, well, the thing is, you were told about this. This is Facebook only app. You sign things over, it's monitored. We sign it over because it say when you sign up, it says, do you agree to the terms and conditions, which are like 15,000 pages long and tiny little writing, and everyone just goes, oh, whatever, and then you realize you sold your soul to, Mark Zuckerberg or something. So, or whoever, that, it's not particularly singling out Facebook at all. So it's just a case of keeping yourself, if you're using something, you need to be aware of the news around that app and think about what you put on and how it's being used. At the end of the day, if you have a smartphone, if you're online, to a certain extent, you're out there anyway, but you just have to make good choices about what else you do and how that information's used, and day to day make those decisions. And it's a lot for normal people to think about, when really all they want to think about is being in touch with their friends and getting on with their life. But unfortunately, like you say, the world should be prettier than it is, and we just need to be responsible adults. And that would include things like putting pictures of your children online and letting everyone see them. And that child, when they get older, may decide that they didn't want that, but it's too late by then. So who sees that? Your family or everyone in the world?
Yeah. Jenny, thank you very much. I enjoyed really this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. It was nice of you to ask me on. I enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, it was good learning from you. And if people want to get in touch with you or want to talk to you, how did they get to you?
So you can see I have my little logo, Human Factor Security. Oops, which is on that side. Everything's reversed. And I disappear because I've got my mic. This is my podcasting mic, and it disappears. So humanfactorsecurity.co.uk is the website, but you can find me all over the place, as you said. So I'm on Twitter as Jenny_Radcliffe, the People Hacker, Real People Hacker on Instagram, and lots of activity on LinkedIn. So I'm not difficult to find, and I'm quite approachable. As you can see, you can ask me anything, and I promise you I will be kind.
Oh, you are kind. and a burglar. Thank you, Jenny.
No, sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you.